Good evening, everybody. Good evening. We're going to begin. First and foremost, welcome to Brooklyn Borough Hall. There are 4 items on tonight's agenda. Please note that this hearing is being recorded to comply with the public law for transparency. It will be available for viewing on the Brooklyn Borough President Adams website, which is brooklyn-usa.org, or on the One Brooklyn channel on YouTube. Again, web viewers may submit timely comments to Ask Eric at brooklynbp.nyc.gov for Borough President Adams' consideration. My name is Amma Jamo. I'm special counsel to the Brooklyn Borough President. To my left is Richard Barak, who is our Director of Land Use, and to my right is Ina Guzfield, Land Use Coordinator. So at this point, may we call in the first item, and let's begin.
Calendar item number 1, 190038 HAK, 190039 HUK, 190037 ZSK.
Go ahead. Yeah, good. Here you go.
These applications were submitted by the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development pursuant to Sections 197C and 201 of the New York City Charter for the following land use actions: the disposition of city-owned property and a special permit to allow the use of community facility floor area for community facility uses with sleeping accommodations, and an amendment to the East New York 1 Urban Renewal Plan to change the use designation of the development site. Such actions would facilitate the development of a 7-story Use Group 3 community facility building with approximately 40,270 zoning square feet and up to 4.02 FAR in Brooklyn Community District 5. The building would contain approximately 70 affordable units, of which 60% would be reserved as supportive housing units for formerly homeless households. Community Board 5 voted to approve this application on September 26, 2018. Would Jocelyn Torrio, the representative for this application, please state your name for the record and present the application?
Good evening. My name is Jocelyn Torrio, and I represent the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development. With me presenting tonight are Chris Bramwell from CB Emanuel, Arlo Chase from Services for the Underserved, and Brian Newman from Newman Design, the architect for the project. We are here tonight to present the development of 461 Alabama, a currently city-owned vacant lot, into a 7-story building that will include 70 affordable housing units, 1 unit for the superintendent, and space for the delivery of on-site supportive services. CB Emanuel was awarded the site through HPD's Minority and Women-Owned Business Enterprise Initiative that aims to build capacity among MWBE developers. Also, Services for the Underserved will be the service provider to provide supportive programs for the building. This is the agenda for tonight's presentation. I will first provide an overview of the ULURP application and discuss where we are in the process. The development team will then provide an overview of CB Emanuel and SUS. They will describe the project site and site context. They'll provide a history of the project and describe the proposed residential program and services and amenities. Brian Newman from Newman Design will then present the design of the building and showing renderings and floor plans of the proposed project. We'll end with the anticipated timeline, and then we can be open for any questions. So HPD is the applicant for this ULURP application, and the ULURP application was certified on August 20th. To facilitate the development of this site, the ULURP application is seeking several actions, including designation of an urban development action area, approval of an urban development action area project, and disposition of city-owned land. A special permit pursuant to Zoning Resolution Section 74903 to allow the maximum allowable community facility floor area ratio to apply to the proposed nonprofit institution with sleeping accommodations. The approval of the zoning special permit will increase the allowable floor area ratio up to 4.8 at the development site. As planned, the proposed development will reach a total FAR of 4.02. The proposed actions also include an urban renewal plan amendment to the East New York 1 urban renewal plan to change the use designation of the development site from open space to residential use. The surrounding area is well served by open space amenities, notably the 40,000 square foot Success Garden located west of the development site, as well as Lions Pride Playground, which is 0.6 acre playground about a 6-minute walk from the site. HPD is supportive of the project as it will transform a vacant and underutilized 10,000 square foot city-owned lot and maximize the amount of affordable units at the site with 70 units plus 1 unit for the superintendent. Now Chris Bramwell and Arlo Chase will provide an overview of CB Emmanuel and SUS and discuss the history of the project.
Good evening. I'm Chris Bramwell from CB Emmanuel. I'm one of the founders of CB Emmanuel. We were started in 2005. We've developed mainly in New York, in Brooklyn to be specific. We're minority certified. We've done about 2,300 units throughout our career at CB Emmanuel, totaling $400 million. The reason that this site was particularly, why we went after this site is because we own everything around it. And we didn't want a developer to come in and kind of change the landscape of what we have there. We own both sides, the street behind it, and as well as across the street.
Good evening. My name is Arlo Chase. I'm a Senior Vice President with Services for the Underserved. SUS is celebrating our 40th anniversary. In fact, we had a little celebration this week. Basically, we provide housing and homes, community-based housing and homes, and social services for people facing homelessness and and with disabilities. We were started to help people find community-based housing as a result of closing large state-run institutions for people with developmental disability and mental illness, such as Willowbrook, which some of you who are a little older may have remembered. And we now operate, operate in over 150 sites throughout New York City, including over 50 in the borough of Brooklyn. We have a very large presence in Brooklyn. Our first project, in fact, in 1981 was opened on Vernon Avenue. We have over 800 staff that live in our borough and over 700 that are employed in our borough of Brooklyn. We'll talk more about the service to be provided later.
So the project site, the project site and content, the site is illustrated here. That is the 461.
You could take the mic out if it's helpful.
Okay. It's 461, and as I was saying, CB Emmanuel owns and manages all of these sites here currently. This is Success Gardens, but this was the site. For the last 20 years, we've been here managing and operating this, and we've actually been maintaining this site as a green space during this time because it was just wildfire at the time. It's between Livonia and Dumont. As you may or may not be aware, the Livonia corridor development has gone on, and there are 6 and 7 and 8-story buildings along Livonia developed. These were the later ones. These were the earlier ones that were developed. This is more of the site. This is the actual street. This is Alabama. This is the site here. These are the buildings that I referred to that CB owns and manages. This is the actual site here in Alabama. It's near Success Garden, which is here on the corner. Lions Pride is a couple minutes away, and Martin Luther King Park. The history of this project, well, first off, we applied for the minority RFP. We were awarded this site, and we had our kickoff meeting with HPD in January of 2017. After a few meetings with the council member on the dates illustrated here, March, July, and December, We've gotten input from her and from land use, and we implemented those suggestions into our plan. We met with the land use committee in April, but we also met with them again in September because the ULURP process hadn't officially started, so we had to go back to see them again. And we just met with the community board September, I want to say 24th, and got their full support. The proposed program, we talked about the 70 units of housing, 1 super unit. There will be 43 supportive units that will service 40% AMI and down. The referral list is coming from DHS, and there will be 27 affordable units, of which 50% of these units will be marketed to Community Board 5, have a preference. And just to point out the rents, it is a 100% affordable project. The estimated rents are $816 for a studio, going up to $1224 for a 2-bedroom. And the estimated income is illustrated as well, $40,000 for person 1, and up to 3 people, $51,000.
Thanks, Chris. So as Chris mentioned, the 60% of the units are going to be reserved for people who are experiencing homelessness. They're coming from homeless shelters, and they have either a mental health challenge or a substance abuse challenge, or co-occurring, both. So SUS, this is kind of our bread and butter. This is exactly why we exist, is to help people who are coming from shelters and in crisis, and to try and get their lives back together and on track. The service delivery begins at the time of initial, when we first meet the individuals. Our intake department talks to them extensively about what it means to live in this kind of housing, what their rights and what their responsibilities are. I want to emphasize that, like all the other tenants in the building, these tenants are rent stable. They'll have rent stabilized permanent leases with all the rights and responsibilities like any other tenant in our building. The one difference, the major difference, is that we have supportive staff on site. So there will be an office as well as several community rooms to provide services for all of the tenants, but particularly geared for those who are coming from the shelters. So what do those services look like? So we start with an extensive interview with the clients to try and get a sense of what they most want to do. So we can, you know, we've found that we can all project our own goals onto people, but the recovery process works best when it's directed by them. So their goals may be to get back with their children or relatives. Their goals may be to seek some kind of employment. Their goals may be to stop or reduce using drugs or alcohol. So that's the beginning of our program, and then through that we have a whole host of services we offer, including all the ones listed here. In addition, we have some more community-based activities. We have movie nights. We will have a therapeutic gardening and horticulture on site, which was proven to be very useful. We have barbecues for the holidays, that kind of thing. One of the other nice things about this kind of housing is that we have 24-hour on-site security, which is a benefit to the residents, but it's also a benefit to the entire community. The income, generally for the income for the homeless referrals, is under 30% AMI.
Good evening, Brian Newman from Newman Design. So what we have here is a rendering of the front facade of the building. What you can see is we've used two-tone brick on the facade to help minimize the massing of the building and to break up the overall massing. On the ground floor, we've added precast stone elements as far as a cornice line and some piers along with lighting to help enhance the streetscape for the pedestrians as they walk by. In addition, we've added lights on those piers for security at night, so the street is lit as a pedestrian comes by. And we've incorporated, as you can see in the rendering, a small landscape bed there to soften that experience as well. So it's not just concrete sidewalk directly against a brick facade. To the right side of the rendering, you can start to see, obviously, it's somewhat hidden by one of the trees, but there's a glass entrance with a glass canopy, and that precast stone that I was mentioning goes up for 2 stories to help announce that entrance. It is a 7-story building, but you can see on the 6th and 7th floors, we have stepped the building back, again, to lower the visual impact for the neighborhood and for the pedestrians walking by. Additionally, the 2 stair towers, which are on the far sides of either one of the buildings, are significantly stepped back. Again, just to avoid creating a solid wall or solid mass from that streetscape. When you're looking at this rendering, you also start to see at the very top on the roof, those are solar panels, as well as a green roof will be incorporated into this project. So what we have here is a compilation of the first floor plan, as well as the rear yard on a site plan. What you can start to see here is we've incorporated active New York design techniques. So when you first come into the building, right in here, as far as the vestibule, you do have the option of taking the stair tower up to the residential floors, as opposed to necessarily using the elevator, although the elevator is directly off that lobby. As you saw on the rendering a moment ago, those stair towers do have windows on all floors, so it will be a very bright, vibrant area for the residents to walk up through those stair towers if they so choose. Another nice feature on this first floor that you can see is this sort of common area directly off the elevator there. It allows for the residents to congregate, to sit, interact with each other, and it's directly next to this one of the community spaces, the computer room, which will have glass walls around it, so it can be integrated for both the people using that and the people sitting there. We've incorporated a set of double doors here, glass doors, which lead out to the rear yard. That rear yard has exercise path that, again, is part of the active New York design. But not only do we have exercise path, we've incorporated gardens or planting areas for the residents to grow their own vegetation with, obviously, the help and guidance of SUS. What you start to see here as well, we have a larger staircase, approximately 8 feet in width, that comes down to this lower level, which has a tiered landscaped wall. That turns into an area which is allowing light and air down onto those community spaces that we were talking about. So SUS's offices are down there, as well as some of those community rooms, but they open up into this area and then can connect back to the rear yard as well. So here's a typical floor plan, just to give you an idea of what I was referring to before about the stair towers being stepped back significantly, approximately 15, 20 feet. This is the typical floor in here. You see the studios, a double loaded corridor, studios, and then the 1-bedroom lines over here. Some of the additional green criteria that we're incorporating into the building would, as I had mentioned before, we had talked about photovoltaics or solar panels. In addition, the roof is occupiable, so we'll have a green roof that the residents can sit up there, experience the green roof, as well as sit and enjoy that area. We'll be using LED light fixtures, low flow plumbing fixtures, low or no VOC adhesives and paints, high recycled content in the finishes. And as far as Passive House, we've looked into that, and while we cannot financially achieve Passive House certification, we've certainly learned a lot while going through the research, and we'll be incorporating certain techniques such as increased insulation, sealants, additional flashing, and especially HVAC design. We do not anticipate puncturing holes in the exterior walls, similar to like a traditional PTAC unit or even a through-wall AC unit. We're not going to be doing that. We have not nailed down the final HVAC design yet, but there are several options, such as split systems or water source heat pumps that will allow us to keep the building tight and extremely energy efficient.
And lastly, our project timeline. As we stated earlier, the ULURP application was certified on August 20th, 2018. The community board reviewed 60 days. We met with the community land use first on the 25th and was approved. And we met with the General Community Board on the 26th and was approved as well. And today we're here to see the Borough Presidents review. And we're anticipating closing this project in December, if not sooner, of 2019. And that concludes. Questions?
Okay, so for both the low income and the supportive housing units, if you could talk about the qualifying income range. I know you put some numbers out there, give the minimum, maximum range for those units, and what are the anticipated rents for each type of unit, based on unit size, and how long are the units required to be rented at affordable rates?
Okay. I'll start with the income levels. For the affordable units, which is the 27 units, the income level for that is going to be $40,080, one-person household, and $51,530 for a three-person household.
But again, there's a range, a minimum amount you can earn and a maximum amount you can earn.
That's the max. Those are the maxes that
Right,
you
so
can
it
earn.
gives the minimum.
I'm sorry, minimum and maximum. So it's between 40,000. I need that slide. Between 40,000 is the low, 51,000 is the high.
For that same unit size.
For a family size, 1, 2s, and 3s.
No, but by bedroom type, if you could give the range by bedroom type.
I'd have to pull up. Let me come back to
Or
that
if you
one.
could follow up.
I'll get back to you on
with
that
that detail.
Yes. As far as the rents go, we're anticipating the rents to be $816 for studios, $1024 for a one-bedroom, $1224 for a two-bedroom. Again, that's both sides, affordable and supportive, but supportive is going to have rental assistance, so they're only going to do 30% of their income. As far as how long the affordability, because it's city-owned land, we're going to have a 60-year regulatory agreement to keep it affordable.
Thank you.
What types of supportive services would be provided on site? And do the services apply solely to the supportive housing residents, or are they also intended to be available to the rest of the building's residents and or the community at large?
So I think I spoke to some of the services that are going to be available. I don't know if you had specific questions about any one of them. So as I said, it's really all the services I want to emphasize are voluntary. They're not a condition of tenancy. As I said, these are all rent-stabilized tenants, so there's no way if they don't participate in the services that we can evict them or otherwise, unless they're otherwise in violation of their lease. So all the services are voluntary. They're, as we say, client or tenant directed. So it could include family reunification, employment, drug and alcohol, moderation, cessation, smoking cessation. We have a therapeutic horticultural program, which is extremely popular. And then, as I said, we have a variety of more fun, quote-unquote fun social activities in the evenings.
Okay.
The services are geared, and we are funded to provide the services for the residents of the building. We do, as I said, have over 50 programs in the borough of Brooklyn that many of them are more public-facing. We do offer and would work with CB Emanuel to offer the community room and many of the spaces to the community board, other kinds of, meetings or programs.
I understand that you did speak about this earlier in your presentation. I guess my question to you is, do you have an itemized list of the exact supportive services that are going to be offered, or is this just in concept?
Well, it's not really a list. So I think these are the kind of things, again, it starts with the interview with and meetings with the tenant. Because there's a lot of, as all of us, we have different desires and needs and where we're at and problems. And so just like if you or I were going to a therapist, there wouldn't be a list of services. It would be, are you having problems with your spouse? Are you having problems with your children? Do you have a drug or alcohol program? Do you have mental illness? So it really, it really is very dependent on where the folks are coming and what their desires are. The main goal is to create a permanent, stable house for people who are coming, generally who have lived in shelters or other non-permanent places for a very long time. So the main goal is to provide stable housing and allow them to start working on these other life goals. I hope that's helpful. I don't want to be argumentative.
No, I understand. Thank you.
Okay, Borough President Adams is concerned that rents based on household incomes of nearly 60% of area median income would disqualify too many Brownsville seniors that are rent burdened or at risk of displacement. Might there be funding mechanisms as part of the financing that might make it possible to reduce some of the rents to make them affordable to, say, households at 30 or 40% AMI, again, for the non-supportive units? For example, Congress recently passed legislation to allow for income averaging of the tax credit financing. So is there a way to perhaps get variation of AMIs?
At this point, I would say we're kind of tight on the underwriting, and it is kind of where it is. We are playing with some things to see if there's any adjustments that can be made with the new FMRs and things like that. But at this time, the project doesn't work any other way. It's really tight. But you do have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. On the income averaging, that would require the project to have incomes above households at incomes at up to 80% AMI, which based on our conversations with CB Emanuel, with the community board and the city council member would not support that kind of higher income band at the project, which would be required to get to the lower bands as you were suggesting.
So there would have to be a mix.
Right, but understanding that you're hope to get a 50% local preference. Obviously, we can never guarantee that. So that if there are some higher AMIs and the community really doesn't have that earning, then it may be just outside from the community folks that qualify for the lottery. So we might be able to do a better job of hitting local folks if we're able to get some more AMIs at 60 and below.
Right. So they're all at 60 right now. And,
right.
And the only way to do that, there's got to be a give somewhere.
Right.
And the council person is very stern on leaving it at 60% of AMI. So it doesn't allow us to even do an average because we're kind of married to the 60% of AMI.
There's been other projects where we've actually had more flexibility with the council member with the understanding that trying to get locally based people that are at 60 or less to get the local lottery to try to get that 50% share. So maybe additional conversation.
We can go back and look at that.
Thank you.
Given the community concerns regarding displacement and the prevalence of rent-burdened households, please identify what marketing strategies will be used in the tenant selection process in order to ensure the highest level of participation from the East New York community, especially those that are rent-burdened or at risk of displacement.
Okay. As far as our marketing, we're going to be doing marketing. We're going to be working with the community board as far as doing outreach. We're going to be working with some of the local groups like East New York, LDC is one of them that we're very close with and we do have a working relationship. So we're going to be using them kind of as an outsource. The other one, the big one, is Housing Connect, which is how lotteries are done in New York City. So we're going to be doing it there. And a lot of, community stuff because we're in the community. As I said, we have the properties around there and other properties. So we're working with a group called Man Up, who is also a part of the community that we work with on the Livonia project. And it was a successful relationship, so we're going to continue that relationship again. That's going to also help. And what it helped with on the Livonia project is we were able to hire locals. Man Up bought a lot of locals, trained, OSHA certified already, and we were able to hire a lot of the locals. So what's the second part of your question?
But we're talking more about the affordable housing to help people in the community who may want to apply through the lottery in terms of lottery literacy programs and marketing to try to help the community participate in the lottery and be successful when participating.
Well, we can't really assist them in the application part of this. That's not something we can do. But the East New York LDC, there are groups that can do that, and the other local groups, community board, we're asking Mr. Mitchell to also help us with that
Well,
as well.
the LDC of East New York has taken such a role. So
Right,
they're an
yes.
example of a group taking that role.
And they'll be handling that for us as well. We work with Bill Wilkins a lot over there.
So while the presentation mentioned some sustainable and renewable aspects of building, for example, the solar panels and some of the construction tightness, we also like to promote stormwater retention. For example, whether it be within the streets realm where DEP rain gardens and in the rear yard, although you have some open areas, like opportunities for permeable pavers, if you could speak to that.
Absolutely, and I should have mentioned that during that initial presentation. But on the site plan, you had seen we had some areas of walkways which get us down to that rear area. So we can certainly incorporate like a grass-crete paver there, which is a permeable paver, which, although we've tried to maximize as much green space as we can fit in there, any place that is technically feasible, so instead of pouring flat concrete there, we could certainly put permeable pavers there. And I feel that grass area, as I was discussing before, that landscape area in the front yard could help achieve that as well. So it's not just concrete to concrete, creating that impermeable barrier.
And then in terms of the street realm, in terms of DEP rain gardens between the curb going into the street, is that something to be looked into?
We can certainly look at that as we design the builder's pavement plan with DOT and the city. If there's any availability there or flexibility, we'll certainly look into that. Right now it's really just sidewalk, the 3-foot landscape, and the building, but if they allow us to, we certainly look into that.
Thank you.
I'll just go into the questions.
Right. Yeah.
Do you need questions? Yeah. We have speakers. Is anyone here who may have come in a little later who didn't fill out a speaker slip? Do we have any speakers regarding this project? Okay.
So calendar item number 1 is closed. Calendar item number 2, 180229 ZMK 180230 ZRK.
Thank you.
These applications submitted by 895 Bedford Avenue Realty, LLC, pursuant to Sections 197C and 201 of the New York City Charter, for zoning map and text amendments to change from M1-2 to R7A, the southern portion of a block bounded by Bedford Avenue, Myrtle Avenue, Spencer Street, and Willoughby Avenue, establish a C2-4 district within the rezoning boundary, and designate the project area a mandatory inclusionary housing area. Such actions would facilitate the development of a 7-story mixed-use building with 4,526 square feet of commercial space and 33,091 square feet of residential floor area in Brooklyn Community District 3. According to MIH Option 2, approximately 30% of the estimated 36 dwelling units would be affordable to households at an average of 80% of the area median income. The intended number of market rate housing units would not trigger parking requirements. Thus, the intent is not to provide any parking. Community Board 3 voted to approve this application on October 1, 2018. Would Eric Palenik, the representative for this application, please state your name for the record and present the application?
Sure, I'd love to. Hi, good evening. My name is Eric Palenik. I'm an attorney. Don't hold it against me. And I'm representing Bill Wolf Petroleum, the principal of which is here today in the back, as well as our project architect is here as well, Brian Newman, who you just met a moment ago. Brian seems to be taking over Brooklyn by storm. He's a great architect, so you're lucky to have him designing some buildings in the borough. We're proud to present this application for a rezoning, which you could see here is on the corner of Bedford and Willoughby. It's the site, of course, in the middle that's marked site. And it's a request to rezone that entire block front between Spencer and Bedford on the top side of the map there on Willoughby from its current manufacturing designation to an R7A zoning district with a C24 overlay. I'm proud to say that we've been working for the better part of the last 2 years very closely with Community Board 3. We've been to 3 or 4, maybe even 5, I think 5? I lost track, but we've been to a lot of meetings with Community Board 3 through the ULURP process. During almost that entire time, they were very welcoming to the project. They had a lot of suggestions for the project, though, and a lot of their suggestions revolved around the design of the building. They're okay with the idea of the rezoning. They like the idea of the number of affordable units we're creating, and I'll go through that. But I just want to cut to the chase that their issues, so what they really wanted to see was the design. And I know it was a question that you came up with earlier that we were presented with, how we're going to memorialize that. So the brickwork on the building was something they wanted to see. We showed them samples, and we agreed on a brickwork. The black matte finishes on the building, they were very concerned because during the years, evidently, some developers will put up an aluminum type of black matte, and I'll show you on the rendering in a second, and that gets dented. So they were very specific about the windows. They wanted the back of the building to have the same facade treatment as the front of the building. And all these different design ideas we were very willing to incorporate within our building. And we'll get to a rendering in a few minutes, and we'll show you that. Going further on with the presentation, though, so we can get into the nuts and bolts of it. Again, you can see the property there on the area map. It's in the middle. What's interesting to note here, just to call out your own attention, is we're asking for a residential zoning designation here, obviously. All around us, you could see from this map, is an R7A district. So the rationale for the inclusion of our property in the R7A is really just an extension of the adjoining district to go to our property and cover our property as well. People are supporting this application. The building here on the corner is owned by an organization called Velocity Framers. They've supported the application. This is our property. The building behind us supported us. This building next door has supported us. These two we haven't been in touch with. There's residential also on the block on these two buildings that are between us and the corner. So by doing residential here, we feel we blend, as Marissa Tomei said, and my cousin Vinny, and we feel that we're well supported by not only the Community Board 3, but as well as by our immediate neighbors who have supported it. Again, the tax map, the zoning map, this is stuff that you've all seen and you can't really read. But here's a very clear zoning map showing you, again, the zoning change. On this side, you have what we have right now. It shows you the M12 zoning designation encompassing the property. And this shows you the R7A I was speaking to, just being extended to cover our property, our block front. This gives you an idea of the site itself. So I didn't start off by telling you, I assumed you were familiar with it. It's an existing Shell gas station. Bill Wolf Petroleum is the owner. Again, I mentioned before, they are here. The site is, I know that we have a problem in Brooklyn with gas stations and that there's disappearing gas stations, and it is a concern. There's a reason why some of the gas stations are disappearing, and this is a good reason at this site. It's an older site. It's got repair bays on it. Nobody really gets their cars repaired that much anymore. Some people do. I don't mean to imply that everybody is driving a car that was built within the last decade, but for the most part, the cars that were built within the last decade are no longer similar to the cars that were built in the 70s, and these cars don't need repairs as much. So the repair business, and I'm sure you could appreciate that yourself, the millennials don't have cars, they have Uber, but the adults the baby boomers that have the cars, those cars are all on leases. And the cars usually go back before they need to go in for extensive repairs. So the site is disadvantaged with the repairs. It's also disadvantaged because it's off the beaten path and it's not a big site. It can't do the volume that the gas station really needs to do in order to make the money. Once you get rid of the repairs, the only way to make money in a gas station is by doing volume. That's why you see other stations, which I'm sure you're familiar with, such as those on Atlantic and Bedford. Across from the Armory, there's a Mobile. I'm sure you're very familiar with it. It's big. It's got 10 pump islands out front. It's got a big convenience store. I'm sure you see it when you go on the Jersey Turnpike and all the highways. That's how the gas stations are, and that's how they make money. So these old school gas stations, such as this, which is a relic that was opened back in the 40s, they don't have the ability to make as much income, and that's why we're asking for the zoning change. It's really not functioning. It's barely functioning right now. Clicking through the photos, you could see what I was talking about before with the character of the residential buildings that are around us. So that was what I was trying to call out. We're asking for, I think, a logical extension of the residential zoning district around us. Again, these photos all show you the residential around us and how we blend in. And just more pictures of the residential and taller buildings around us. I'll come back to the affordability, but I'll touch on it here for the purposes of our conversation, then I'll come back in and dig in a little deeper on it. We're asking for 80% affordability, 30% of the units at 80% affordable level. There'll be a total of 36 apartments within the building. 11 of those are proposed to be affordable. Of the, excuse me, 11 of the 36 are proposed to be affordable. 6 of them will be 1 bedrooms, and 5 of them will be 2 bedrooms. And I'll come back in a second, and we'll talk about the matrix and all of that jazz, so we can go through the numbers a little bit more. Just to give you an idea of the plans, this is just a massing diagram that Brian has put together. If I can, this is really the money shot that you want to see. This is what I was talking about a moment ago about the idea with what the community board was looking for some discussion points on and what we agreed to. They wanted the windows, they wanted to be sure that what Brian is representing here is actually what is built. And I know that and they know, they're very savvy obviously, they've been through this for years and years and years. They know once a rezoning comes through, developer can build whatever they want. Here we're blessed with a great developer, they're local, they're not intending, they don't sell their properties, they own a lot of properties in New York City, they do not sell, they will be developing this, they're not flipping it. They have given their word that they will build to this specification. I understand you would like something maybe a little more solidified. We're happy to give you a letter from them or an affidavit or some type of testimonial to their intent of the bricks that they intend to use and the facing materials and the windows. And Brian Newman, who you're beginning to see is quickly becoming a fixture, is the architect in Brooklyn. He's going to make the same representations I'm making. There's not much more of a way that we could tie it into the development. We'd encourage you to put it into all of your paperwork so that it finds its way to the approval should the application be approved. And we'd be happy to use any other mechanism that you may see fit to tie it to the property. This is an imagery of the back of the building, and this was what was prepared for the community board after they requested that the back of the building have the same fronting, same materials, facade materials as the front of the building does. So you can see there the back, this is the back, and we're just showing you the brickwork that's proposed on the back. This goes through, again, the discussion on what the community board is asking for. Brian could talk about this a little bit more for you, but it was just showing you the idea of the brickwork that we discussed with the community board. And this is just some other examples of some other buildings that the applicant has constructed. They have buildings, residential buildings, under construction right now within the 5 boroughs. And they mostly, up until now, had a lot. They do have a lot of retail. So this is just a sampling of just some of their other properties that they've worked on and developed through the years. This was asked for by the community board to just show other properties that they've worked on. And this is another building, actually, excuse me for a second, I clicked too quick. I went right Fastpasses. Another building that they have under development right now. And that's the presentation. If you wanted to jump back into the affordability numbers, I'm happy to talk about those. I'll just click to the page here to make it easy so we all have. This is very useful. Everybody in the city should have this. This is great. Should do this at the Board of Standards and Appeals for those who practice there. It would make our presentations nice. It makes it easy for you to see everything here. So this is the screen that has the affordability matrix. And this gives you the breakdowns of everything that you are asking for. The average rent for the affordable units is $1,483 a month. That's for all 11 affordable units. That's the average rent. The average rent for the market rates is proposed to be approximately $2,982. And then you asked us about the average rent for a 1-bedroom affordable. That will be, and we can give this all to you in writing. I could pass up, I have what I call cheat sheet, old school cheat sheet. I can give that to you so you don't have to worry if you miss writing when I see you writing. The average rent for a 1-bedroom is $1,357. And the average rent for a 2-bedroom is $1,634, which my parents have asked me if, since I'm in on the development, if they could get that apartment. And I said, no, I have to keep helping out. That is the essence of the application. We feel we put together a very good application. We feel we're hitting the neighborhood's concerns. The community was happy with the price points and with the affordability numbers. It's not a huge building. It's only 36 units, so giving up 11 of them for the affordability component doesn't make the building a huge money maker at the end of the day, but it does put money in the developer's pocket, enough to incentivize them to go through the risk. And Brian Newman is here to answer. He has comments about the green components.
Could we also have a copy of your one pager?
Yeah, here you go.
Great, thank you so much.
If you ask me a question about it, I have to come back.
No problem.
Yeah. Here, you can click through it whatever you want. I'll let you do it. Forward, either way. Take it right where you want to go. It's easy.
Just going to go back to either the rendering or the plans. Probably be easier to visualize what I'm speaking about if we have that in front of us. Okay, here we go. Okay, so what we have here is obviously a rendering on the corner of the two front facades. Again, we like to break up the massing by using two different colors of masonry, of brick on the facade. The horizontal bands or cornice lines would be the precast stone on this project as well. The lower level, or the ground floor retail component, that would be an aluminum panel cladding down there to give that sort of industrial modern loft style look down there. At that ground floor, you have the residential entrance, the glass canopy, which is cantilevered right in the center, just below the white section of this particular rendering. On the rear yard here, you can see obviously it's the same brick treatment. We are not putting stucco or ephes on the building. It's the same brick. It's the same precast stone bands on the horizontals for the cornice lines that you see here, same window treatments. You start to see the residential courtyard back here. Obviously, these will be permeable pavers to incorporate some of the green techniques in this project. Same concept as on the last application as far as green techniques with LED light fixtures, low flow plumbing fixtures, low or no VOCs in the paints and the adhesives, high recycled content for the finishes. Certainly open, and I just have to double check with the parks and builders and DOT regarding the rain garden situation or the front street trees. Certainly open to investigating that more. This particular project would have a high SRI roof. We don't have a green roof on this particular project, but we'll go high SRI roof as another one of the green components on this particular project. I'd like this to jump to the first floor and then actually to the cellar, because that was one item that the community board was very concerned about. So we have two areas essentially for the retail, sort of divided by the residential lobby. So we have one component here, another component here, residential lobby here on Willoughby, which gains access to that outdoor recreation area for the tenants. One of the concerns or requests for the community board, they wanted to make sure that those retail components also had storage. So we have a full cellar for this particular building, and there's storage in here for those retail components as well. They felt that was very important to allow these retail areas to be viable. They wanted to make sure they had storage, so we incorporated that. A large area of the cellar is obviously going to be mechanicals, but we've also included the bicycle storage, laundry room directly across from the elevators, and we've also incorporated another amenity room for the tenants as well, directly off the corridor right by the elevators. So those were some of the concerns that the community board had as far as the floor plan, specifically on that ground floor with the retail and the amenity spaces for the residents as it's specifically to that cellar area. The typical floor, 2nd through 7th, center core, elevators, stairs, double loaded corridor as it works its way around. The mix of the bedrooms just sort of working its way around. And then we have the windows out onto the courtyard, so you get light and air into those apartments as well. And that's what we saw in that rear picture of that rendering. We were sort of looking in that direction. And I'll leave you with this image if there's any other questions.
Okay, so although you mentioned about 80% AMI and you gave rents based on 80% AMI, just want to verify, will there be multiple tiers, or are you looking at all of the affordable?
No, there'll be multiple tiers. And of course I put down my matrix. So, no, I'm good, I found it. Thank you for offering that back, thank you. It ranges anywhere from 60, there'll be one bedroom, there'll be 2 one-bedroom units at 60%. I gave you the averages before. And I could pass up this matrix next that I'm reading from, so you don't have to take all these notes.
But there also may be people who will watch us on...
I'll read it, so that way...
And they'll know that that rent or their income ranges for them, and they will be encouraged.
I'll go through it for you, so that way verbally, so you could hear it, and I'll pass it up to you. So for the listening audience, there'll be 2 one-bedrooms at 60% AMI, and those will rent at $963 a month. There'll be 2 two-bedrooms at 60% AMI. Those will rent for $1,166 a month. There'll be there'll be 2 one-bedrooms, excuse me, at 80% AMI that will rent for $1,375 a month. There'll be 1 two-bedroom at 80% AMI that'll rent for $1,660 a month. There'll be 2 one-bedrooms at 100% AMI that are at $1,733 a month, and there's 2 two-bedrooms at 100% AMI as well that'll rent at $2,089 a month. So to summarize, the spectrum runs from 60% AMI to 100% AMI with as little as $963 for a one-bedroom at the 60% to as high as $2,089 for a two-bedroom at the 100%.
And then the income ranges?
The income ranges go anywhere between, at the 60%, between $38,000 to $43,000. That's it for the one bedroom. For the two bedroom at the 60%, it's $43,000 to $54,000. For the one bedroom and the one bedroom at 80%, now I'm in the 80% spectrum, is $45,000 to $61,000. The two bedroom at the 80% spectrum is $61,000 to $76,000. And going to the 100%, the one bedrooms are $66,000 to $76,000, and the two bedrooms at the 100% level are $76,000 to $95,000. So you range anywhere from an income level of $38,000 at the lowest income level for the one bedroom at 60% to a highest income level possible for the two bedroom at 100% at $95,000.
Thank you.
And I'll give this to you as well, so they have this.
Thank you. Thanks. Community Board 3 voted to support this proposal in response to various design changes and the developer's expressed intent for community access to resulting employment opportunities and participation of a local nonprofit housing provider. By what means will those agreements be assured?
I'm sorry, you're already reading the resolution. I do apologize.
That's okay.
The question was,
Yes.
I sat down, I apologize.
No problem, no problem. It comes down to going back to what the community board voted on to support this proposal in response to various design changes and the developer's expressed intent for community access to resulting employment opportunities and participation of a local nonprofit housing provider. By what means would those agreements be assured?
Well, we've started a discussion with Bridge Street Development Corporation as a result of our meetings that we've had with Community Board 3. Bridge Street Development Corporation both can manage the building as well as operate the not-for-profit, act as the administrative agent for the not-profit component, for the affordability component. They're very interested in it. We've started discussions with them, and we hope to actually engage with them. We've also been working very closely, as I mentioned before, with Community Board 3, and we intend to continue that relationship with them as we move forward. The same goes, I don't know if you asked in that same question, for jobs. We've been working with a gentleman named Taiwan from Community Board 3 to talk to him about ways to get people jobs as the building is both during the construction phase as well as once the building is up and running for the operation of the building. A copy of our communication to the Community Board. We're happy to have that memorialized in any way you see fit. We'll could provide you with a letter directed to the Borough President if you wanted, as opposed to the Community Board, to incorporate those design changes. But we are committed to those.
So given community concerns regarding displacement and the prevalence of rent-burdened households, please identify what marketing strategies, such as you mentioned before about potentially Bridge Street, a community affordable housing nonprofit, as the administering agent, would be used in the tenant selection process and to ensure the highest level of participation from folks living in Community District 3, and what marketing strategies would there be to start off a financial literacy campaign to assist residents becoming lottery eligible?
We've spoken to Henry Butler again. I keep coming back to Community Board 3 because we've been working very closely with them on all these issues. Henry and I have made an informal arrangement that we're going to be coming back to the Community Board when the project starts to get constructed, and we're going to be working closely with them. He was the one that recommended us to Bridge Street Development Corporation. So we think that that partnership between all three of us will yield very strong marketing in the local community. We feel we'll get people to know about the project. We'll get them to have understanding. There'll be proper direction and communication to them. And we think that's how we'll address your concerns.
Thank you. So regarding sustainable and renewable, you did touch upon those items, and we'd also just mention in terms of the roof, if green or blue roofs do not make sense, we also at least look to have a white roof, if that can be done.
Yeah, yes, absolutely, and that's what I was referring to or leading towards when I said high SRI. Absolutely, a white roof would be incorporated in this project.
Thank you.
It is Borough President Adams' policy to maximize good quality jobs for Brooklynites. Please outline what steps will be taken to ensure the inclusion and participation of minority and women-owned businesses, enterprises, and local businesses, enterprises in the process of construction on the site.
A lot of these questions, of course, keep coming back to the same discussion that we've been working with Community Board 3 on, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself. But these, of course, you know Community Board 3 probably better than I do. The questions you're asking now are asked by them the day I walk into their office for the very first time. So it's the same answer. We are going to be doing extensive outreach in the community. When it comes time to actually build the building, we're going to be working, we've been introduced to a gentleman named Tawan, whose last name I'm not remembering right now, who's working with Henry, Mr. Butler, to get local people involved in jobs on the job site. Mr. Butler said he could direct us to more organizations, so we're going to work closely with him. The same thing with the Bridge Street Development Corporation. So really, we're going to be making a very strong effort to stay very local in everything that we do.
But it's also reaching out to the community of contractors and subcontractors as part of that.
Correct, and that's when we spoke to Bridge Street Development Corporation. They're actually a fantastic resource for that in the community. Mario is the gentleman's name who runs that organization, and he was very enthusiastic about all these ideas because this is what I talked to him about, all these.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Amir Khan, yeah, could you please approach? Yes.
If you could state your name for the record when you start speaking.
My name is Amir Khan. Good evening. Once again, my name is Amir Khan. I'm a doorman in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I'm also familiar with this area. I'm a graduate of Brooklyn Tech as well as LIU Brooklyn. I've been a member of 32BJ for 9 years now, and I'm here on behalf of my union to share our concerns regarding 895 Bedford Avenue Realty LLC's proposed development at 895 Bedford Avenue. We believe that developers should commit to providing good building service jobs in order to build a more equitable economy here in New York City. Unfortunately, 895 Bedford Avenue Realty LLC has not made a commitment to providing good jobs with benefits. Most building service jobs are filled by local members of the community, and we are concerned about this project's effects on working families without a commitment from the developer to provide good jobs. We believe this project should not undermine the standards that building service workers have fought for years citywide, which is why we are here respectfully urging you to recommend that the developer commit to providing good property service jobs with family-sustaining wages as well as benefits. These type of jobs that I work and so many of my other colleagues work allow us as New Yorkers and our families to live here with dignity. Thank you very much.
Idris Abdullah, pardon my mispronunciation.
Good evening. My name is Idris Abdullah. I'm one of the members of the Land Use Committee for Community Board 3. And this particular project, you know, we just like he said, when they came through the door, we gave them heck, you know. And we actually put a lot of requests on the table in the interest of the community and participation of the work, and they actually came through several times. This is one of the contractors that, you know, everything that we asked for as the committee members, they definitely came through. So I feel strongly that this project here is definitely going to be something that's going to be a benefit to the community. And also, you know, their commitment, I personally feel as a community member that their commitment was sincere. Looking at the factors that we requested, the different type of materials to use, and they definitely came back every time. Actually, I think they came back to us maybe 3 or 4 times, you know, and every time they met our criteria and our requests. So I personally want to thank them, and hopefully we can move forward with them. And they did give a commitment to the committee that they will be working closely with trying to work on good jobs paying for the community local. So again, I congratulate y'all, and again, hopefully this is something that we can definitely move forward and work strong with. And thank you again for this type of, bringing this type of project to the community.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers who have not signed a speaker slip for this project?
Calendar item number 2 is closed. Calendar item number 3, 1803888 ZRK 1803887 ZSK 1803889 ZSK.
These applications submitted by 12 Franklin Property Co. LLC, 12 Franklin 230 LLC, and 12 Franklin 197 LLC pursuant to sections 197C and 201 of the New York City Charter for the following land use actions. A zoning text amendment of the New York City Zoning Resolution, section 74-96, to designate the block bounded by Franklin Street, Gem Street, Meserole Avenue, and North 15th Street as a new industrial business incentive area, a special permit pursuant to ZR section 74-962 to increase the maximum floor area ratio for specific industrial, manufacturing, and commercial uses, and allow an adjustment in height and setback controls on the development site, and a special permit pursuant to ZR Section 74-963 to reduce the off-street parking and loading berth requirements for the development site. Such actions would facilitate the development of a 7-story commercial building within an M1-2 district in Brooklyn Community District 1. The building would contain a mix of office, retail, and industrial uses with a total floor area of 134,222 square feet. Community Board 1 voted to approve this application with conditions on October 9th, 2018. Would Melanie Myers, the representative for this application, please state your name for the record and present the application?
Thank you. Thanks for being here. My name is Melanie Myers. I'm an attorney with Fried, Frank, Harris, Shriver, and Jacobson, representing the applicant of the 3 actions that are before the Borough President. It's a project, as was mentioned, that would allow for a 7-story, 134,000 square foot commercial and light industrial building to be built in the Greenpoint Williamsburg Industrial Business Zone. It's a project that we think makes sense for the area, will bring jobs to the area, and it's one that I know the development team is quite proud of. Jonathan Simon is one of the principals, and I'd like to introduce him, and he can talk a little bit about his business and the plans and goals for the project.
Good evening. Hi. Thank you very much. Thank you. We're looking forward to working with the Brooklyn Borough Presidents and his everybody who's involved with him. We're very excited about this project. It is a Class A office building, which we think that the neighborhood needs to support all the entrepreneurs and small businesses in the neighborhood. What else can I tell you? Also, we're excited about the industrial and manufacturing space. We've been in business. I'm Jonathan Simon, CEO of Simon Barron. We've been in business for 25 years. We did one other project in Brooklyn on Atlantic Avenue, which was a dilapidated 5 walk-up buildings that we turned into, it was dilapidated, boarded up for 17 years. And we won an award for that from the Cobble Hill Association. We love the project. We're very excited about it.
So I want to talk a little bit about the area and the background, what the approvals are, and Dan Kaplan from Essex Collaborative will talk about the building itself. So just from a location standpoint, we're in the southern part of Green Point, near the Bushwick Inlet Terminal. The site is in the middle in red, and you can see it's part of a kind of triangular, somewhat oddly shaped block, but it's right in the middle of the Greenpoint-Williamsburg Industrial Business Zone. From a existing conditions standpoint, what you really have is a site that is a compilation of some smaller buildings that have been used for warehouse purposes. There's a couple of bars in the site. It's an area that I think has a lot of potential, but at the moment it is really sort of in a low density and used more from a warehouse and a sort of entertainment standpoint than one that really generates a fair number or a lot of jobs. From a zoning or from a land use map standpoint, you can see that is it in the middle of an area that has quite a bit of manufacturing zoned and industrial uses, but in the reality, again, is that much of that purple that you see on that map is more of the warehouse type than actual job generating types of spaces. It is well suited and well situated with respect to mass transit. It is nearby both the G train and the L train. There are 3 bus lines which serve the site. There are 2 ferries that are within a half mile of the site. There are a number of city bike stations near the site, and there is a bike lane that runs up Franklin, which is immediately adjacent to the site. It is also, while it's low density, it's in an area that is starting to see a fair amount of development of different sorts, including some office space, but more from a hotel standpoint, and then along the waterfront for residential. Zoning map standpoint, it's in an M12 zone, which is the zone which allows for the applications that we are looking at today. So these are the proposal. There are 3 actions. The first is a zoning text amendment that would allow for this site to be identified as an industrial business incentive area, which allows for an applicant to seek special permits pursuant to 74-962. The special permits that we are requesting are 2. One is for a building which would be allowed to be built to an FAR of 4.8 on the condition that at least a 0.8 of that floor area is used for a certain amount of required industrial uses, and that the additional area is used for a combination of what's called incentive uses and permitted uses. The final special permit we're asking for is for a reduction in the parking requirement from what is, for the size of this building, a somewhat extraordinary number of almost 400 cars to 36 spaces, which we think is the right number for this particular project. Just looking at the zoning map amendment, what we'll be doing is a very simple, straightforward text amendment, which will allow add that the triangular block on which the project is occupied as onto a map and identify it as an industrial business zone, and then, or business incentive zone, and then seek the special permit, which again would be conditioned on the inclusion of 22,300 square feet of light industrial space as part of the project. And the third special permit would really allow for two things. It would reduce the parking requirement as indicated to 36 spaces in the basement of the site, really the cellar. It would also change the loading requirement to limit it to 2 loading berths and allow for those berths to be 40 feet instead of the 50 feet, which is required for typically in manufacturing districts, assuming that there would be much larger trucks than would be coming to this site. From a stacking standpoint, the required industrial use space would be located on the second floor. As of right, permitted uses would be located on the ground floor. They would likely be retail, and on the upper floors where they could be sort of a rooftop bar or they could be office space, and the rest of the project would be an office space. So that's sort of the overview from a zoning standpoint, and turn it over to Dan to talk about the project and the design of the project.
Thank you, Melanie. Dan Kaplan, FX Collaborative Architects. I'm just going to walk you through the project quickly. This is the site plan. The building, the site and the building is in the center of the plan, with surrounded on streets on 4 sides. It's a 5-sided building. Very, very interesting shape. A little bit closer. This is the ground floor plan. There's basically, I'm just going to go clockwise from the bottom left. There's a through lobby. Then there's retail on 15th, Franklin, Meserole, and wrapping around basically half of the frontage of Gem Street. Then there's a ramp that takes you to below grade parking. Then further down page, the bike storage, which is bike parking, which is directly accessed off of the sidewalk, and then the 2 loading berths. I just want to point out for the industrial use with the loading berths, they're 40 feet deep. That's larger than the typical New York standard of about 34. So they're 40 feet. There's a compactor that's also included, and direct access to the large service elevator. So it's set up for industrial use. Second floor would be, as Melanie said, the industrial use, the light manufacturing use. Again, set up for this use, 15-foot high, 15-foot floor to floor, a wide corridor, heavy floor loading, access to the freight elevator, showers, independent exhaust systems. So it's really a light manufacturing setup for small, that can accommodate smaller tenants. The other plans, as Melanie has said, are essentially commercial use from 3 up to 6. 3, 4, and 5 are really set up as office space. 6, which has a large roof terrace, could be office or food and beverage. 7th floor has a very small footprint and is really the access to a second roof. Some aerial views of the building. Architecturally, what our concept was here was not to make an all-glass building, a sort of Hudson Yards building, if you will, but to make something that was more rooted in the industrial heritage of the area. So it's large, overscaled windows in a grid-like pattern, then merged with a more contemporary approach of 2-story high cutouts with access to greenery from each floor. Here you can see really the street wall is 5 stories tall. The building sets back significantly. You're seeing at the top of the building the green roof which would be a green accessible roof from the 6th floor. One issue that we have, I think, resolved very well working through this process is that we are in a 100-year flood zone. Basically, the flood elevation is about 3 feet above the sidewalk, approximately. The sidewalk changes a little bit. We are locating our ground floor retail 2 feet above that. The requirements are 1. We're going an extra foot 2 feet above. But in order to make a sidewalk experience that isn't sort of cut off from, which is really pedestrian oriented and pedestrian friendly, we have lowered the show window so that it is really within the flood zone. We have worked this through with city planning and with the Department of Buildings so that the show windows themselves and the entrances, of course, are wet flood proofed, and that the retail space above that is it's basically above the floodplain. And then this is the again, the overall view. This building will front onto the park that will be coming one day soon across Franklin Street, and we think it's a good complement to the park, including these large cutouts and the green roofs. 2 things in closing, just summarizing the advantages, benefits, the attributes of the project. One, it preserves and enhances the local manufacturing job base. It reinforces the industrial architectural neighborhood of the industrial architectural character of the neighborhood. It establishes needed Class A office space in Greenpoint. Again, the floors are set up for, you know, smaller tenants, larger tenants. It's really crafted for those that need. It creates an active pedestrian retail environment near Bushwick Inwood Park and really around, on those surrounding streets, and provides environmentally responsible and resilient space. And just in terms of the sustainable and resilient characteristics of the building, as I said before, we are not doing an all-glass, typical office typology type building that you would see in Hudson Yards or, let's say, Lower Manhattan. Those buildings are approximately 2/3 glass. I know some of them look like they're all glass, but 2/3 of them are vision glass, and the other is a spandrel or opaque glass. So our window-to-wall ratio is half of that. It's approximately 35%, 34%. So that is the largest driver of energy efficiency, is the having more opaque surfaces. It also works with tightness of the wall and increased insulation and reduction of heat that's needed for air conditioning in the warmer months. So we have that. The windows that are there are shaded. They have integrated solar shades. They're 2-story high overhangs on those cutouts and those loggias. We also have optimized the orientation of this building. The south-facing wall, that's really a lot line wall, has very little vision glass in it, so it doesn't have a lot of heat gain. And office space and industrial space, it's cooling dominant use, which means air conditioning is almost always on, so reducing the amount of solar gain is important. Transportation, as Melanie says, we're very well served by transportation here, reducing vehicle parking, increasing bicycle parking. Resiliency, I talked about in terms of creating an active ground floor while still in the 100-year floodplain, but we're also elevating the utilities and basically making a wet flood-proofed parking, which is half submerged below grade. Water efficiency, plumbing facilities and fixtures will be state-of-the-art. Healthy materials. The roof will be a combination of green roofs and white roofs so that we reduce the heat island effect. And the 2-story high cutouts that are around the building increase what's called biophilia, which means connection to nature from the indoors. So with that, we're here to take questions.
Just one last thing.
Sorry.
It's okay. I'm just going to turn it back to the picture. We did meet with the community board. We met, presented the project at the full community board in September. We presented again to the Land Use Committee of Community Board 1 last week, and then we met and had a vote from the community board at their October 9th full board. The community board recommended unanimous approval of the zoning text amendment and the zoning and the special permit to allow for the building of the size and the shape that you're seeing in the application. They had two conditions. One was to impose or confirm that the required industrial use space, that space on the second floor, not be used for accessory retail, but rather be used for the retail, for the industrial component. Then the second condition that they included was a recommendation or a condition that the industrial space be marketed at a rate that was 20% or at least 20% lower than market for the office space. For the special permit for the reduction in the parking, there was a healthy discussion about what the right number is, and there were several votes at several times. The ultimate recommendation made by the community board was to approve the special permit with a modification to have a number of the reduction being to 60 spaces rather than the 36 being requested. So with that, thank you for your time and happy to answer any questions.
So regarding the existing building, to what extent with the floor area that exists would be the type that would be equivalent of the required industrial uses, and to what extent does that is there a percent of the entire building?
So currently, or actually not currently, but at the time that we started working on this project, there were 5 tenants on the site, occupying in total about 28,500 square feet. Of those tenants, one was a warehouse that just did cold storage. Another was a plumbing supply facility that did, I think, both wholesale as well as retail. There was a music studio, and there were 2 bars, restaurants, one of which has a brewery component in it. Of that, those 5 tenants, of that 28,500 square feet, the only use that would qualify as required industrial use would be the brewery element of the restaurant bar, and that occupied about 2,000 square feet. So of the 28,500, less than 10% would have qualified for the required industrial use space.
Thank you.
Borough President Adams recognizes that craft food and beverage production is a growing manufacturing sector, but that there's a need to protect and provide for more traditional manufacturers. Food and beverage manufacturers have the potential to set up accessory retail operations on the premises to enhance revenues, which would allow such businesses to pay higher rents. To what extent does the zoning permit or preclude accessory retail operations within the defined required industrial use floor plan?
I mean, we think that the special permit is about creating an opportunity for light manufacturing uses, and that's what we think the space should be about. We've heard that there could be a concern that some of these facilities could end up occupying or using a portion of the required industrial use space as an accessory retail. So for our 22,300 square feet of required industrial space, maybe 1,000, 2,000 could become a retail space. It's not something we think the special permit is about. It's not something we think makes sense. And to the extent we need to, or there's a condition imposed over the course of the review that wants to put a note or something like that on the drawings to make it clear that the required industrial use space is in fact for those uses. And if there is a retail component, it needs to be somewhere else in the building. I think that's something we're very amenable to do.
Thank you. Community Board 1, as you mentioned, had a mandate to at least 60 parking spots be the minimum required. How would the applicant consider modifying the special permit application to memorialize this condition?
I think I'm sort of going to answer that in two parts. Again, our proposal is for the 36 spaces that we've done. We don't want people driving to this building, and we don't want to encourage it, and we do want to encourage other modes of transportation and to get here. As part of this project, the bicycle parking requirement from a zoning standpoint is 17 parking spaces. This project includes 85, so we've increased the amount of required parking space, of bicycle parking spaces by 5. So while we certainly understand that the recommendation was made, we think that we've got the right balance between creating a disincentive for drivers and providing enough spaces for those that might come. As a practical matter, as a technical matter, which is different than what we think is right, the parking facility that we have is a self-parking facility, and that's what accommodates the 36 spaces. If there were a condition imposed that we would have to adhere to, we would have to make the parking facility be an attended parking facility. That would allow for an increase in the number of parking spaces that would be available. And it's something that we do think is within the scope of the application that is before the Borough President.
Thank you. So, of course, we've been talking all night long about sustainable and renewable uses of energy, and been talking about that, and also in terms of stormwater management policy. So, what consideration has been given to possibly coordinating with DEP's programs, Mayor's Office of Sustainability, NYSERDA, NYPA, towards incorporating passive house construction, solar, you've talked about blue and green roofs, and also at grade level rain gardens.
Yeah. Dan, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
So first I'm going to take the passive house question. Passive house, which we are designing several residential passive houses now, it basically demands an absolute cap on the amount of energy use of the building, including what the tenants use. Given the fact that the industrial use, electrical is not determinant, there is no true industrial use passive house in the world that has been built. So we don't think we can do that here and also attract the industrial incentive uses that are needed. However, given we will certainly look to passive house principles of thermally improved and highly insulated facades, airtightness, and tuned and reduced amount of solar gain. The other programs that you have referenced for water gardens and NYSERDA incentives and so forth, we have not addressed those yet in this stage of the development of the design.
Okay, thank you.
It is the Borough President's policy to maximize good quality jobs for Brooklynites. Please outline what steps will be taken to ensure the inclusion and participation of minority and women-owned business enterprises and local business enterprises in the process of construction on this site.
We expect that both MWBE and LBE participation in the construction of the project. As a practical matter, this is a project that will be receiving ICAP tax incentives, and apart from the goal generally, there are requirements under that program to make, I think it's for every construction line, to issue RFPs to at least 3 qualified MWBE. So the whole process will ensure that the fact of this project is being made available, and it is available, that there are these opportunities, and not only are there requirements, in terms of sort of reaching out and making sure that the RFP responses and the responses are broadly disseminated in that way. There are also reporting requirements as it goes forward to ensure that all opportunities are there. So at a technical and a legal level, those protections will be there. From a local business standpoint, it's again something that I think the developers are very interested in pursuing. There's been outreach already to Evergreen, which is one of the neighborhood organizations, in terms of how to think about the industrial space, and we think that that might also be an opportunity in terms of making sure, again, that there are that the opportunities that will be generated by the construction are known to the local businesses. I think the other thing that we could say, I wanted to mention, is that for the projects that Simon Barron, the developer, has done throughout the boroughs, whether they're as of right or whether they require a permit like this, they've sort of taken it on themselves to establish a working relationship with the community. They use their community relations consultants to set up working groups so that people are aware of the construction, and that there is a way of actually sort of responding back when there are issues. It doesn't quite answer the question, but we're thinking that that might also be a mechanism that can be used, again, to make sure that the community and the neighborhood workers are aware of the opportunities for the construction.
Okay, thank you.
We'll now hear from the public. Mr. Dwayne Fernandez. Thank you, sir. Good evening.
How's everybody doing? Good evening. My name is Dwayne Fernandez. I work with 32BJ for 6 years, and I'm on. And I have been a member with 32BJ for 6 years. I'm speaking on behalf of my union, which represents over 80,000 people who clean and maintain buildings like the one being discussed tonight. 32BJ is here tonight to support the 12 Franklin rezoning SDG Property Management LLC, an affiliate of Simon Barron, has committed to good building service jobs in this rezoning. These are the kind of jobs that will allow working families in Brooklyn to live with dignity, mobility, and security. The developer's commitment to good property service jobs illustrates their commitment to the larger Brooklyn community, and we are pleased to be supporting them throughout this process. For these reasons, we urge you to support this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jack Davies. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Jack Davies. I'm the Policy and Campaigns Director for Transportation Alternatives. I'm here today to voice our support specifically for the waiver from the zoning requirement to reduce the number of parking spaces requested at 12 Franklin. We believe that New York needs growth that encourages public transit use, walking and bicycling instead of driving, and we feel that the requested permit in this case is the responsible approach to development in New York. Our research has shown that when the supply of parking is high, the demand to drive also increases, even when that driving isn't critical. This in turn leads to increased traffic congestion, slower bus speeds, increased air pollution, and compromised pedestrian and bicycle safety, not just at the site, but all across the city. 12 Franklin, however, is designed to encourage public transportation use and help ease traffic congestion. We've already heard a lot tonight about how it relates to public transit and city bike stations, mopeds, walk from Williamsburg and the ferry stations there. But as traffic congestion, safety, and pollution reach crisis levels in New York, we should not be encouraging development that needlessly keeps more cars on the road. Granting the requested permit would set an important precedent not only in development best practices, but in prioritizing people over motor vehicles. Please join us in supporting this permit. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers who have not signed a speaker slip for this project? All right, let the record reflect there's none.
Okay, calendar item number 3 is closed. Calendar item number 4, 180459, ZMK 180457, ZRK 180458, ZSK.
This application, submitted by 570 Fulton Street Property LCC and 1 Flatbush Avenue Property LLC, pursuant to sections 197C and 201 of the New York City Charter, for the following land use actions. A zoning map amendment to change from C6-4 to C6-9, the northwest portion of a block bounded by Flatbush Avenue, Fulton Street, and Rockwell Place, within the special downtown Brooklyn district in Brooklyn Community District 2. A zoning text amendment to establish a maximum permitted FAR of 18 for commercial or community facility uses in C6-9 districts within the special downtown Brooklyn districts. Make the special downtown Brooklyn district's height, setback, and tower regulations applicable to C6-9 districts, and create a new special permit to allow the City Planning Commission to permit modifications to bulk requirements for buildings in C6-9 districts, as well as a special permit to modify requirements for building setback, commercial and residential rear yards, inner court recess, and residential tower lot coverage pursuant to the relevant zoning resolution sections. Such actions would facilitate the development of a 40-story, 436,000 square foot mixed-use building with commercial uses on the first 16 floors, inclusive of an approximately 106,600 square foot residential tower above. The building would provide approximately 139 dwelling units, of which 30% would be affordable according to the Affordable New York Real Property Tax Abatement Program. Community Board 2 voted to disapprove this application on October 10, 2018. Would Jay Siegel, the representative for this application, please state your name for the record and present the application?
Before we move forward, I'd like the record to reflect that Crystal Hudson, representing Councilmember Campbell, is present.
Thank you. I am Jay Siegel, and I am going to ask my colleague, Ali Carreri, to do the presentation.
Good evening. We want to start out by highlighting where the site is located. 570 Fulton, the development site, which is marked with a DS on this area map, is located near the intersection of Fulton and Flatbush Avenue in the special downtown Brooklyn district in an existing C4 zoning district. The rezoning and related actions, which I will describe shortly, are intended to facilitate the development of a 202,000 square foot, 40-story building consisting of 2 stories of retail, 15 stories of office use with approximately 87,000 square feet of offices, and 23 stories of residential use above. And the main reason for the application that we're describing is to add that 87,000 square feet of office space, which will have relatively small floor plates of 57,000 square feet to, 5,700 to 7,500 square feet floor plates, which we think will be consistent with the Borough Presidents 2004 report. So the 570 site, which you can see in the middle drawing there most clearly, is developed with a 3-story building. It's been completely vacant for about 2 years. It's adjacent to 1 Flatbush, which you can see and that's being developed by the applicant Slate as well, and we'll discuss that in a little more detail later. It's also adjacent to 66 Rockwell building, which was constructed in 2013. So here's a closer up of the area to be rezoned. Thank you. Closer up image of the development site, which is highlighted in the striped area. The red outlined area is the zoning lot, which consists of the 7,200 square feet development site at 570 Fulton, as well as a slightly less than 12,000 square foot parcel that is being developed with the one Flatbush building. That's a new 19-story, 12 FAR mixed-use building, quality housing building that received its first partial TCO about a week ago and is expecting to get its full TCO by the end of the year. That building has inclusionary housing units and affordable housing under the old 421A program. So the zoning lot as a whole is about 19,000 square feet. It would consist of 570 Fulton and one Flatbush. And the proposed 570 building would use air rights from one Flatbush that are generated by the rezoning that's proposed. There's a portion of 25 Flatbush Avenue that's also in the rezoning area. That's not part of the zoning lot. That site has already transferred its excess floor area to 66 Rockwell, adjacent to the south, and only has about less than half of it is included in the rezoning area. So these are the actions that have been certified into ULURP by city planning. A rezoning of the rezoning area from an existing C64 district to C69, which would increase the maximum FAR for commercial and community facility use from 10 to 18, while no change would be made to the maximum residential FAR, which is 10, bonusable to 12 with inclusionary housing. There would also be text amendments to apply the special downtown Brooklyn district regulations in the C69 district, establish 18 FAR as the relevant FAR for commercial and community facility floor area, and to create a new special permit for developments in the C69 district. And then we would apply also for special permit for certain bulk waivers that would enable us to create better floor plates and to lower the overall height of the building. This is a rendering of the proposed building. As I said, it's a 40-story, 202,000 square foot mixed-use building with a commercial base consisting of 2 floors of retail at the bottom. And you can see those two floors here. Another 15 stories of offices, which make up a base that aligns with the one Flatbush base, and more setback floors above. So that's where the range of office floor plates come from, and 23 stories of residential above, which have slightly less than 5,000 square foot floor plates. As I noted, the residential FAR wouldn't be increased under this action, and city planning has determined that because of that, mandatory inclusionary housing doesn't apply to this action, but the developers will be seeking affordable New York real estate tax benefits by providing affordable housing, a portion of which would be under the inclusionary housing program in order to increase the residential FAR to the 12 that's permitted currently. And as I said, the relatively small office floor plates we think are the right size to attract small-scale local companies, incubator-type office space for growing companies. This is just a image to show you the kind of ground floor retail scape. This is an image to show that the proposed building would be in keeping with the heights of tower buildings within the area, including the existing building right on the same block, 66 Rockwell that I mentioned before, and buildings on the immediately surrounding blocks, including the Ashland at 250 Ashland Place and 333 Skirmerhorn. We didn't put the super tower at 1 DeKalb that's going up on here because we didn't want to look like we were cheating, but that would also be, I think, just south of 1 DeKalb up there, so a little bit closer to the development site, and that's going to be 1,000 feet. We, as I mentioned, are applying for certain waivers, bulk waivers under the special permit that we're creating. And these are all intended to reduce the overall height of the building and get better floor plates. And I'm available to answer any more specific questions you have about those. And we have David Schwartz from Slate available and David West from Hill West available to answer any questions about the building.
Regarding the, well, is that the conclusion of your testimony? Okay, thank you. Regarding the intended affordable housing units, what is the qualifying income range for prospective households based on household size? And what are the anticipated rents based on the number of bedrooms? And what is the distribution of units by bedroom size?
Hi, everybody. I'm David Schwartz, if we haven't met. So we're going to be applying to one of the Affordable New York programs. We want to have further discussions with both the Borough President's office as well as the councilwoman to make sure that we have the appropriate ranges. They will be in proportion with the unit mix of the rest of the building as well as dispersed throughout. And obviously, everybody will have the same entrance and use of all the same amenities throughout the building.
So based on the choices that you have, can you give us a sense if you follow certain variables of the program where rents may lie or incomes may lie?
Yeah, so the rental programs are anywhere from 40 AMI up to 130 on the Affordable New Yorks. So you're talking about incomes in around the $30,000 range, and at the higher tier up to about $100,000. We would obviously want to have discussions, and we know that people are obviously advocating for lower rents very often, but sometimes we like to have a mix because the way that the Affordable New York works, it's an all or nothing. So if you miss by $1, you're out. So we want to make sure that it's appropriate for the community and look at the other affordable housing that's been built within the community, including stuff that we've been building. And just to add to that, we will be working with Impact. This will be our third project within the community that we're doing with Impact to both help educate people on affordable housing. What does it mean? How do you apply? How do you get the lottery? And then also to counsel people throughout. So this will be our third project that we plan on doing with them in the neighborhood. It used to be packed for those that are not familiar.
Thank you.
So what action would ensure that the represented affordable housing units are actually realized as part of the development instead of going to a straight market rate where you build 10 FAR residential and 8 FAR commercial?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think the answer is that we've done 20-somewhat projects that are all rentals that have all utilized 421A. We don't believe it's feasible without. It's something that we'd be happy to explore in more detail as we 100% intend to use that program.
Thank you.
Regarding the represented commercial ground floor, what consideration has been given to providing affordable community facility space for local arts and cultural nonprofit organizations?
It's something that we would be very interested in discussing further. We're big supporters of community groups in general, big supporters of the arts. We've been involved. We actually had a nonprofit that supports local artists called Space that we've done. We love that. It's one of the reasons that we love this neighborhood, so we would love to continue discussions with the Borough President's office, with the Councilwoman's office, and anyone else from within the community or frankly within Brooklyn on some good ideas for that.
And it's the Borough President's policy has been talking all night about sustainable and renewable energy resources to advance a sustainable future in Brooklyn. and also policies in terms of practices to retain stormwater runoff. So if you could talk about considerations being given in whether it's cooperation of DEP with their rain gardens or Mayor's Office of Sustainability, NYSERDA, NYPA, towards incorporating passive house design, solar panels because your height, wind turbine, blue, green, or white roof coverings, and the rain gardens.
So environmental sustainability is very important to us. We will submit a comprehensive letter to you that outlines exactly what we plan to do within this building, but it is something that we understand the importance and that the Borough President has placed on it, and it's something that's important to the development team as well. So we'll send you a detailed letter on that.
Thank you.
It is Borough President Adams' policy to maximize good quality jobs for Brooklynites. Please outline what steps will be taken to ensure the inclusion and participation of minority and women-owned businesses, enterprises, and local business enterprises in the process of construction on this site.
So that's a great question. It's something that we do on all of our projects. We agree with the Borough President wholeheartedly. We will be working with By the Numbers Consulting and Team Brown Consulting on this project to ensure that we exceed the number of MWBE hires as well as local hiring. We've done that successfully on many projects, both projects that are requiring discretionary action and the regular projects that are just as of right jobs. We do it on all of our jobs. It's something that we're really proud of as an organization, something that we want to continue to do, and it's something that we will do here. And actually our groups are Manny from BTN is here, as well as Ed Brown from Team Brown Consulting, who will be continuing to work with us on this project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to now move to the public questions. Oh, yes, please.
Okay,
thank you so much. Thank you. Mr. Stephen Yearwood. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, folks. My name is Stephen Yearwood, and I have been a member, still am, of 32BJ for 21 years. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of my union to express our support for the proposed project at 570 Fulton Street. As you know, 32BJ is the largest property service union in this country. We represent over 80,000 building service workers in New York City, including over 700 workers who live in District 35. It is our estimation that when opened, this building would be staffed by approximately 6 building service workers. 570 Fulton LLC has committed that these jobs will be good jobs, with family-sustaining wages and benefits. These are the types of jobs that give New Yorkers dignity and access to mobility. In addition, we strongly support the developers' commitment to much-needed affordable housing that our members and working families in Brooklyn could greatly benefit from. For this reason, we ask that you approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you. May you? Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is May Yu, and I'm the Senior Director of Real Estate and Economic Development for the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership. On behalf of the partnership, I would like to express our strong support for the proposed rezoning and development project at 570 Fulton Street. The project comprises many features that will benefit the neighborhood. The building's mixed-use model will combine more than 87,000 square feet of much-needed small office space, more than 9,000 square feet of retail, and 139 affordable and market-rate apartment units. The rezoning of the site will increase the commercial floor area, but maintain the residential floor area as currently zoned, thus allowing the project to fill a major gap in the market by establishing the first 24/7 live-work space in the area. 570 Fulton Street is in the special downtown Brooklyn district. which, as many of you know, was originally created to encourage the development of additional commercial office space. Over the past few years, downtown Brooklyn has seen record employment growth. And that's particularly true in the industry sectors of tech and information and arts entertainment. And we, as the partnership and through all of our research, have seen a strong demand for office spaces of various sizes, and firmly believe in the need to provide more space and more opportunities for entrepreneurs and businesses to grow right here in the heart of downtown Brooklyn. With planned office space featuring much smaller floor plates, catering specifically to smaller businesses, this project speaks directly to the goals of the original rezoning and will be a transformation model for commercial development in the area. Additionally, the project has the potential to address the city's ongoing affordability crisis. Since 2005, median rents citywide have been increasing, while median incomes have remained stagnant. 570 Fulton will provide 42 affordable rental units that will benefit low and moderate income households, and thereby continuing to maintain the vital diversity of our neighborhood. 570 Fulton is a project that will enhance the downtown Brooklyn community and will serve as a model for future development. I and the partnership strongly urge you to support this proposal.
Thank you. Jesus Corporan. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jesus Corporan. My company is Jeco Electrical Service. Minority by default, raised and born in Dominican Republic, came to this country in 1984. No English, $20 on my pocket. I have been a long way. What I'm holding here is a licensed electrical, master licensed electrical electrician certified by the New York City. Licensed boat. I'm a licensed private pilot for airplane and helicopter. And a debit card with very little balance. But that doesn't mean a lot. What it means is when I get an opportunity to demonstrate myself and to demonstrate to others what I'm capable of doing, this goes beyond money. I don't see an opportunity to make money in the projects. I see an opportunity that is given it to me to demonstrate to others and to myself who and what I am capable of doing. When I walk into Slate Group office, they have no reason to believe in me because I didn't do any work for them before. But I believe that they believe in minority, and they are identified with minority, and they are minority sensitive people. Halfway through the project, I submitted a payment requisition, and I needed to have a $5 million umbrella, which I didn't have at the time. And they was holding a check for me for $100,000 and so more, which it was very critical. And David himself made himself responsible and released the money. That means a lot to me. Because that means he's not only giving opportunity to minority, he's also trying to help minority to succeed. When I started the project, they only gave me the electrical part, and halfway through the foundation, they continued to add the fire alarms, the ARC system, which is a radio communication for the fire department. They added the security. They added everything, the low voltage possible, to my contract. Because right since the beginning, they knew in their heart that I was the right person for the job. I'm supporting this project because by supporting this project, I'm supporting myself as a minority, and I'm also supporting others people that comes behind me. My company also has people with learning disability, because we believe that people with learning disability can do certain type of work. Don't give 2, 3 orders at a time, but if you're giving 1 order for the whole day, they are capable of doing it. So I'm minority, I believe in minority, and I support this project because I know he will support me for the longest. Good night.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gary Burns? He's gone? Oh, okay. Let the record reflect that he is gone from the hearing. He was not feeling good. We're being informed by a member of the audience. Thank you. Are there any other speakers who have not signed a speaker sheet who would like to speak on this project? Yes, sir.
Yeah, you could speak, but then right afterwards, if you please fill out a slip for us. Thank you.
Good evening.
For the record, please.
My name is Matthew Taylor, president of HPD Corp. I'm a second-generation contractor. I've been in the industry for 40 years, and I would support the project. I support Slate because I haven't got any work from him, but he gave me the opportunity. But he ensured many, many minority grassroots laborers in the city. I'm a witness to that. So therefore, can't go to every party, but he gave some people some jobs. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, they're going to give you one. Thank you so much. Thank you. The hearing on these items is now closed. Thank you for your participation in this public hearing. Borough President Adams will review the applications we heard today and will soon submit his recommendations to the City Planning Commission. Borough President Adams would like to take this opportunity to remind you that the City Planning Commission will hold a public hearing on these items. The hearing is now adjourned. Borough President Adams would like to remind those viewing on the website that timely comments can be submitted by email to askeric@brooklynbp.nyc.gov. Thank you and good night.